It's time for the first Locked On Cubs Soundoff. What do you think about the Cubs right now? We talk about it next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please support the show by following on your preferred audio platform, and you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's episode is presented by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Well, what is going to define the 2023 Cubs? We are trying a live call-in show for the first time. We're calling it Sound Off. And the Cubs return to action on Tuesday and return to Wrigley Field, having won only 2 of their last 10 games. The wild card race is the only race, Sam, to focus on. The D-backs, Marlins, Reds, and Giants are also in the hunt. But one big problem, the Cubs don't hold a tiebreaker with any of those teams besides the Giants, who as of right now are the most behind. Sam, it was a off and on gloomy Monday in the Chicagoland area, and things are gloomy for the Cubs.
Yeah, I had a pretty good day, just getting away from the game a little bit, and then I found myself locked in at 5:40 to the Reds and the Twins playing, and then the Marlins and the Mets, because you have to shift gears quickly in this situation, and at the end of the day, now the Cubs need help. They need a lot of help. I think they have to win 8 of their next 12 games in order to make the postseason. And if they win 7, they're going to need a lot of help. And so that's why, as we are on this show right now, I have the Mets and Marlins game open on the other browser because it's really significant. But they got themselves here. I think the more and more I think about it, the Cubs really did put themselves in this position with 3 straight losses against those pitchers. And, I don't want to say I've come to grips with it, because I'm definitely not throwing in the white towel. And I really enjoyed, going live yesterday.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on doing that. Actually, a good friend of mine told me that was a smart idea. And so, it made me feel better. It was like therapy for me, just as much as it was the listeners. But, yeah, it's sad right now. It doesn't have a great feel to it. I don't know what else I could say.
Yeah, no, it's actually, even though we're at a loss for words, it is well said. And I appreciate you going live. I tuned in myself. And yeah. I think that's really the premise of this show. And the timing is not ideal. But as a radio nerd now fused with the podcasting world, I, at times, would like to be the voice of the fans. And I think for much of our run, we have been that, just based on engagement, audio and video, and social media, especially, Sam on Twitter, whatever it's called nowadays. And this is the opportune time to really sound off about this team. And so we're going to do that. We have a third spot here on video. We're live exclusively on YouTube right now, and smash the like button for those that are with us right now. And if you would like to be a guest on Locked On Cubs Sound Off, we do have the email at the ticker below, locsoundoff@gmail.com. This is not a Q&A. Of course, if you have questions, we would love to take them, but really I think it's going to be therapy. just what it was for you, Sam, last night, and talking all things Cubs. So we're going to try Brady first, who is right by Wrigley Field. He's an everydayer. Brady, thanks for joining Locked On Cubs Soundoff.
Yeah, Matt, Sam, thanks for having me. I enjoy watching the show every day. It's been a delight the season and off season from last year. So it's been
thank you very much.
I guess my biggest thing this off day has been a good thing for me to kind of decompress after I was worked up over the weekend, to be honest. Sam probably saw some tweets and stuff on Twitter. And so I guess the frustrating thing, I think, is this almost was something that we saw coming for a long time. Sam had mentioned multiple times, the margins in the beginning of the year, some of the games that they lost.
Yeah.
And they call August and September the dog days for a reason. But I think the important thing to remember is that this team's dog days started July 1st.
Right.
So these games that they're playing, the wear and tear that they've been going through has been an extended period of time. And I almost just wonder how spent they are.
Yeah.
Not only mentally, physically, and part of that feels like it was almost inevitable from the beginning of the season with some of the moves that were made, the things that didn't end up working out. It's led to a lot of wear and tear on the everyday guys that we're kind of seeing come to pass all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, I've heard a lot about the Cubs being tired lately. I know they've had these stretches of a lot of games without off days. My biggest thing, Brady, and I really connected with a lot of what you're saying, is just these stretches in the roller coaster that have been so good. And I hope they have that one more time in them. But, they were 26-36 on June 9th. From June 9th to June 25th, they went 11-2. And then from July 18th to September 6th, only 12 days ago, they went 33-14. Those two stretches combined, 44-16, which is a 120 win pace. They were down in the dumps to 120 win pace, and now you're just going to give it up?
Right.
Well, I think that's the thing that's so frustrating with the team, though, is that we've seen the highs, and I've seen a lot on, Twitter, Cubs people, Cubs reporters, even some pundits from other, networks. Oh, the Cubs weren't supposed to be here. They were a 76 win club projected. And, I mentioned a couple of times that expectations change. And I think we saw how good this team can be when stuff were clicking. And that's what makes it more frustrating. If this team was significantly overachieving to the point where we thought this isn't sustainable, I don't think that's the case with this squad. I think there is an underlying level of play that is sustainable. And that's why the frustration has occurred in the last week and a half, is that it is seemingly fallen off a cliff at the most important point of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right with the dog days element starting in July. I also just don't think they are that good when how they were playing. It's they're somewhere in between, how bad it is right now and how good it was at the end of July. But they actually never have really had many stretches where they've in between. It's been all or nothing. And so, I think the hope is that, if you map the way the season's going right now, they have another hot stretch coming. But like I said on the show, I can't emphasize this enough. They don't control their own destiny anymore. They can win 9 of the next 12 and play great baseball. And if the Marlins do the same and the Diamondbacks do one less, they're out. So I think that's the part where it's really concerning, and why all these games now for everybody matter so much, because Matt's been saying it on the show a ton. When you control your own destiny, you can just focus on you. If the Marlins and Reds win tonight, and then the Cubs go out and score 14 runs on Tuesday night, and the Marlins, Reds, and Diamondbacks win on Tuesday night, their playoff odds will go down.
Wow, yeah,
that's
hard to accept.
They'll be in a much worse spot. They need help. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make that I'm delivering on this show now is that, it's not just up to them. But yes, I do think they'll start playing better.
I just wish there was somebody on the squad that would just step up. It's felt a lot of middle ground. Like this, Belly carried the team in July and early August. Seiya was really hot for a while. And, Justin Steele's been that on the mound for a while. I feel super confident when he starts. I don't feel really confident with anybody when they get up to the plate outside of maybe Bellinger. Seiya was hot for a while. I want that guy in the lineup where he comes up and I'm like, we're good. I don't care what's going on. I feel confident with this guy at the plate, big spots. And just right now, I just don't feel that way with almost anybody in the lineup that we put out there. So that's the frustrating thing as a fan right now is the level of confidence in some of the guys is just waning as the season goes on. And it's frustrating to watch every day. So
Brady, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Brady.
Yeah, over the last 10 games, I can't pick somebody that I would be excited to see at the plate. They're ice cold offensively.
Right.
And that's too bad. Let's go to Brian at Orlando FL. Brian, you're on Locked On Cubs Soundoff.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. This is a pleasure. I enjoy listening to you guys every day. Ever since the start of the season. So
thank you, Brian.
It's been great.
Absolutely.
You left didn't you leave a comment last night, or am I imagining that?
No, I did.
Yeah.
And what I will say is, as far as being a fan, I will say, as far as being a fan goes, as frustrating as it has been, as frustrated as we are now, this is probably the most fun I've had watching baseball in a long time.
Yeah.
Because of all the highs, all the lows. At the end of the day, I think we all wanted to be where we are now, at least watching meaningful baseball in September and August, instead of moving on to football season or whatever else, any other sports anybody watches. And I think that's the key. And obviously, I think this team can get back on track. But it just sucks that they don't control their own destiny anymore. But I think that the key is, I think in these final 2 weeks, besides Bellinger, I think Swanson has to step up for the team. At least offensively.
That's a great pick.
No, I've been out on Dansby for a while here.
He's got to be the guy, because Nico doesn't slug.
Right.
And then Bellinger and Suzuki are the only two that really have had slugged. Bellinger's really the only one that slugged all year. Suzuki started to, and luckily Hap's finally in the leadoff spot, but he also hasn't produced a bunch of power. And I know that Dansby's not a home run guy, but he's a big doubles and triples guy. And that was one of the big reasons why I liked signing him in the offseason. And it feels like he has to step up at the plate, or else his team's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I would say Swanson and Hap are the people to zoom in on, right?
No, I'm not zooming in on Hap. Hap has been who Hap is. To me, it's Dansby Swanson was labeled this winning player, and all I heard all off season, and even in the beginning of the season when the Cubs were struggling, was, well, Dansby's just not playing well because this isn't a winner. He needs to be part of a winning. He's used to being in a pennant race. And ever since this team has gotten to a pennant race, he hasn't hit the ball worth a damn. Okay? No, I'm not trying to be funny. It's ridiculous. Okay? And on Saturday night, he had 2 opportunities with a man on third and 1 out to bring in an extra run, and they could have won that game, and he didn't do it again. So enough. Miss me with this. Oh, well, he's such a winner. Winners hit the ball.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Every time he came up in the extra inning game, I kind of just walked away and waited until whoever was on deck, because I kind of knew the outcome already.
No, not Hap. I'm done with Hap. Hap's Hap. I never expect Hap to deliver in the clutch. He's a lost cause. Swanson is supposed to be a guy with World Series pedigree that delivers in those moments, and he's consistently come up short for about a month and a half now. And he's one of these guys that's immune to criticism among the media. So I'll say it. He's been terrible.
I'm catching what you're dishing out. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. We'll do it again soon. Yeah, I think you described Hap last week as just being there, almost ghost-like.
Yeah.
And, I do think it's a shame that it had to wait until game 149 for him to hit in the spot in which people had a theory in which he would succeed in. But Dansby has been one of the most unclutched players all year. Obviously more in the recent time, but the Cubs were the least clutch team hitting and pitching for a while there in the summer. We would bring up the FanGraph stat, and that it's a great category. And individually, Swanson is one of the worst in baseball. It's wild to see. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce the first everydayer we ever had. It's Bryce in Iowa. He's now on Locked On Cubs Soundoff.
Matt and Sam, thanks for having me on. And I got to say, I love fired up Sam.
Sure.
This is the Sam that I want to see, because this is the Sam that I was introduced to last July of 22, when Rafael Ortega was leading off every day and playing center field. That was fired up Sam. And saying, why are we having Rafael Ortega lead off on this baseball team? That was the Sam that I was introduced to. So I love fired up Sam.
Thank you. I guess.
Bryce, how have you been taking in the Cubs games recently?
Day by day.
Okay.
Plate appearance by plate appearance. It just par for the course,
And that's what the team has been saying all year.
Yeah.
And it's worked for a while. Let's go day by day. Yeah. We're not going to freak out. We're not going to try to do things harder or faster. We're going to just try to go day by day and let the organic nature of a baseball season happen. And I think for a stretch there, they were maybe proven right or did even out. But day by day right now is you're living on a thin edge.
And it's certainly not easing the minds of Cub fans.
It's not. And what have you thought in terms of these couple dudes who were nearby you in Des Moines that haven't necessarily panned out or have? Anybody that comes to mind?
Well, as you guys know, we've all been on the hashtag free Matt Mervis train ride for well over a year. Matt was really the first guest that you guys had last year.
Pretty much the only,
and,
really.
The jury's still out on Matt. I mean, he's had highs and lows in Des Moines too. He's had really good stretches, and then lately, the iCubs went on like a 7 or 8 game losing streak, and Matt was he was a part of it. He was just the lows, but it's riding that roller coaster. And one of the things that frustrates me is when you see somebody like a Mastroboni gets called up and called down and called up and called down, and thinking, doesn't Matt Mervis deserve a shot again, other than a Miles Mastroboni or whoever we've got playing third base today? And I know Mervis doesn't play third base, but let's give guys like Matt Mervis an opportunity, Canario an opportunity. Let's see what these guys
DCA.
got. But here's where I'm going with, and this was going to be my question to you guys, was the potential that we have in this franchise. We've got some star power coming up, and the biggest question I have is who is going to lead that potential going forward. Is David Ross the guy? Is he really the guy that you can trust that can get the most out of a PCA, out of a Matt Mervis? Is he the guy that's going to be able to get all of this untapped potential out of the prospects that we know that have, high ceilings? I think we have a track record of what Ross has done, that he's inherited PCA, Canario, these young guys. And what do? They sit on the bench. Yeah. We're going to play Patrick Wisdom again. And we're going to play him at first.
Right.
And we're going to play Miles Mastroboni again.
Yeah.
So what are we doing with this? So
I love it. I love the Ross question, Bryce.
I think there's a lot there. So I'm gonna try and unpack it, and then I'll answer the specific question. I think the Mervis thing's a personnel thing. They don't need they need a guy that could hit right-handers. So against righties, where would he play? He can't play third base. They like Bellinger there at first, and then they go Talkman in center. So there's just nowhere to play unless you were to say, hey, we want his bat in there instead of Talkman's. Bellinger goes back to center, Mervis goes back to first. Yeah, or DH, right. That's tough. The general question about Ross for me is he the guy to develop the young players? That's not the question I'm answering, because I don't if I answer that question, I would be talking out of my rear end, because I don't know how that works. All I know is what I see on the field. I don't believe he is a good enough manager to get the most out of his team year in and year out. And I have felt that way. This is, I believe, now year 2 or year 3 for me on that. I believe that this team having to sit here on my Monday evening while recording a show, a very popular show, some would say the best Chicago Cubs show out there, and have to waste my time watching the Miami Marlins play because we're not ahead of them. I think that is an indictment on David Ross. So yes, I have serious questions about Ross, the manager. They're just not as much about player development as getting victories.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot for me, Bryce, with David Ross, somebody that I really want to see succeed. And
I think he's a better coach than Matt Eberflus.
Yes, yes.
Not by much.
I was confused up until, because since July 3rd, the debacle up north, Ross has had a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of change. And I'm just wondering why it took that many games and a debacle like that and a slide for him to show more of his player personality, to pull out his notebooks from Francona and Madden and Cox and McClendon and Tracy. And he has this fabulous resume. It really hasn't translated as much as I thought or as much as I would like to see. And quite frankly, the point that they built up to be 4.5, or I think it was 4 even, right, Sam? 4 games up and firmly in the second wild card on September 6th, and then not to get in. I think that's a failure.
Yeah. That's an indictment directly on David Ross.
And he is getting more heat today for that. I know we've been maybe a little more out in front of that. And then we, maybe evaluated differently as the season went along. But now I do feel like he's getting more heat and fairly as maybe he should have been throughout the year.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. Have we not been having the same conversation when I've been going back and forth with you guys on Twitter and texting back and forth? Have we not had the same conversation for well over a year?
Ultimately, yes, we have.
Significant doubts about the direction of this ball club. And I think it squarely falls on the shoulders of the skipper. And I'm looking at the long-term future, because that's really where this franchise is at. We have got a bright future ahead of us. And yes. I would hate to see us, in the name of short-term relative success, maybe inching our way into the playoffs, getting that 6th seed, and then likely being bounced in the first round, likely being bounced in the wild card round, for the sake of, well, let's hold on to our manager. He got us into the playoffs. Let's ride this train. Let's see where we're going. Because if we were to fast forward to July of 24, okay, if we were to do that, would we be sitting there and looking back and saying, well, you know what? We feel really good about David Ross because we got into the playoffs last year, but we're still a 500 ball club. But we can't get rid of our skipper because we made the playoffs with him last year. I can't sacrifice the long-term potential of what this franchise has for a mediocre short-term success of maybe inching into the playoffs and kind of feeling good about it.
Yeah,
I can't.
It's fair.
I don't think that's where this franchise is going. We've got a better future than we do a present. And I look at the infrastructure that we have in our front office, and I don't like the track record that they've shown us so far.
It's fair.
Bryce, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I was telling a coworker today, Sam, and of course we'll have time to unpack it. If this downslide continues, we'll have plenty of time. But I think I know Craig Counsell's going to be a free agent. I don't know what their process is. I don't know if they call him.
Right.
But yeah, it's a unique scenario if that, even if they do make it and this other person I guess what I'm thinking right now is like Counsell or Ross. And that's how I've been thinking more recently, whether just not Ross or bust. So we'll see how that plays out because Counsell's going to be a hot name next month for sure. All right, he sent in a video request, and then I pinged him back and said, hey, we're actually going to be live. You could just be with us. And I see him right here in the waiting room, Sam. This is Ford. Ford, where are you calling from? And it's good to have you on.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm calling from Glen Ellen, Illinois, western suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah, sure. No,
You're
sure.
right down the street from me now.
Yeah.
So, my question was already kind of discussed with Brian, I believe. But, obviously Cubs are going to need to go on a massive run, even to give themselves a chance to make the playoffs this season. But, I was going to say that this season, the runs have really started with really big moments in games. Like, for example, one of my favorite moments of the season was Talkman robbing the home run against.
Sure. I think that's Jed Hoyer's favorite.
Yeah, against St. Louis. I think they won the last the next 9 out of 14 games after that.
Yeah.
And then Morel's walk-off, obviously, against the Sox was fantastic. They won the next 10 out of 14. So, yeah, my question was really going to be, I know we spoke about Dansby and Happ, but who do you guys think really is going to be the guy that we're going to need to see, whether it be on offense, defense, really step up, and that maybe you guys can make a prediction. We'll see. That could really spark a huge run. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'll say it again. Dansby Swanson.
Sure.
I think Dansby Swanson. Everybody else has had runs to help carry this team here. Suzuki's done his job for now. Bellinger's done more than enough. Horner's been steady, but like other people have said, he doesn't really have the slug to carry an offense. Dansby Swanson needs to start hitting and hitting frequently, I think, for them to have a chance. And as you said, things flip. Like Matt, I know Matt's probably going to start getting tired of me doing this, and this isn't what you were asking for, but I want people to understand now. Everything flips if the Marlins were to get upset by the Mets tonight. There's 12 games left, guys. It's a huge, every single game is massive. If the Marlins were to lose tonight, now you're probably in a situation where 8-4 gets you in for sure. So it's
with this few games, it does.
Yeah, it's every game is just super, super critical.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
For them to go, 9 of their next 12, which probably guarantees gets them in. Yeah, I think Dansby's got to get really warm.
Ford, I'd like to know when the Cubs have the lead and the starter exits the game, who pitches? They don't have a closer right now.
Merriweather.
Merriweather's a candidate. Leiter's a candidate. Marcus Stroman came back this weekend, which was very unlike what this franchise has done, just this year. The guy didn't even go to Des Moines, down the street from Bryce. He just pitched in the major leagues after not pitching since July 31st. Thankfully, he did well. I would like to see him pitch in the 8th or 9th inning. I think his moxie and his vibe maybe has that, if not his stuff. But I really think that's my biggest question marks right now. And I would like to say that the two guys you didn't expect good years from ultimately could maybe sing another tune as well. and that's Gomes and Tauchman. Is Tauchman even get a start in center these last 12 games? Is it going to be PCA? And then, Gomes has just been so rock solid. No one's going to be surprised if he comes up tomorrow and gets a clutch hit. So those are the two names I'm thinking of. And then I'm just wondering still about the bullpen right now. It's not ideal.
Yeah. So about the bullpen, I mean, honestly, I feel like if we're going to have more of those high leverage situations, our best bet might be to go to some of our veterans just because they have more experience. So, but either way, I mean, I don't know. I agree with you about Stroman. I think he's going to be great in the later innings. He can give it all he's got since he doesn't have to worry about conserving energy as a starter. So, yeah, I agree.
I think they need to try it at least. All right. Thanks, Ford.
For sure. No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we get some more calls as we're doing Locked On Cubs Soundoff for the first time. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Sales. Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with tech that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And now we've built the first deep sales platform with the next gen of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator to get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon. for a free 60-day trial of the LinkedIn Sales Navigator to try today. The Cubs play the Pirates at 6:40 p.m. Central Tuesday, and you can listen to every pitch with the Cubs hometown broadcast on Sirius XM. On the SXM app, search Cubs or tune in to channel 844 and catch the Cubs all season long on Sirius XM. We are going a little bit longer this episode, first edition of Locked On Cubs Soundoff. And next up, we have Ty in Scottsdale. He's been a big fan of our show. I've exchanged many messages with him, and now he's with us. Ty?
What's up, Ty?
Hey, fellas. How you doing?
Not
good.
Great.
Good to have you here.
Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting out here in 105-degree weather in Arizona, just burning up, and had the pleasure.
Are you wearing long sleeves?
Yeah, I do, because my house has to be at 68 degrees in order to somehow be comparable with the heat.
Sure.
But I had the pleasure of being at the game on Saturday night down here.
Pleasure is a strong word choice. Go ahead.
I'd say, why I say pleasure, guys. I think with obviously what you guys have to do on a daily basis and endure the stresses, and I know. Sam, side note, haven't seen the allergies come back in a while, so I'm a little concerned. I know vibes were higher when the allergies were rolling, so I don't know if you got to stay off the Zyrtec a little bit, but we got to change things up here, right? But because the reason why I say pleasure, guys, I mean seriously.
Well played, Ty. God bless.
Thanks. I feel good about that one. The environment, though, I mean. The environment that is at Wrigley that unfortunately I can't be at is just it kills me, but. The environment at that building on Saturday night really makes me think like this is really great things we have once again with the Cubs. And I think that brings us to, the idea of how you can be positive with all of this, because I know it's like ridiculously hard to do right now. But I think about 6 at Wrigley at home against 2 underwhelming opponents, especially with the fact that the Cubs, had that opportunity against the Rockies in Colorado and completely, wasted it. So I think they're going to be able to take it there. And then, of course, with the Pirates, I think there's still just this idea of the anger that probably a lot of these players have built up. I can only imagine that plane ride home. Looking at what Ross has, or Ross and Jed have made the decision to move Tyone out of the next, out of his start here in the next 3 days, which I think is incredibly critical and also a very, very bold decision based on the fact of Steele now having an additional start, having that potential additional start at the end of the year.
Right.
If you're to look at one lineup decision right now. Let's say Magical is out now for, let's say, about a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What lineup decision? I know you guys talk about them all the time, but what one lineup decision can you make that would be bold, that you think would be the most valuable, have at least the lowest level of risk, but you still bold in a way that you guys would make to the lineup right now? Because I think personally, I was just driving home today, I thought a Morel to third base would be a very, very bold move. It would open up the lineup a little bit more. But we'd kind of love to hear you guys' takes there.
Thanks.
My lineup decision would come from the order. And I think hitting Cody Bellinger third and Seiya Suzuki fourth. And then I don't really care about the rest. That would be my decision. I think Christopher Morel hitting third is worse than Ian Happ. I think it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and I would hit Bellinger behind Happ again. So I would go Happ 1, Bellinger 2, Horner 3, something like that. Just a little adjustment there. And maybe Suzuki third or fourth as well. There's options, but I think if we're talking bold, I would stick with Happ and Bellinger, but now they're 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I love that.
I don't like that. I would go Bellinger. I still want Bellinger. I would go Happ.
Because he's a run producer. Is that why?
Yes. I'd go Happ, Horner, Bellinger.
Cubs don't have many of those. Go ahead.
Suzuki, and then 5 through 9. I would, whatever you want to do. And Ty, let me say this. Funny joke about the allergies. Nice job. You seem like a really nice, cool, regular guy. And so I say this with all due respect. If Christopher Morel is playing defense at third base on Tuesday night, I will fly to Arizona. You and I can get a nice meal. We can get a nice meal together, maybe call it a steak, and discuss our endeavors, because I don't want to watch that guy throw the baseball across the diamond. At all. But then again, if Patrick Wisdom's the only option, he's really become kind of a liability. So
it's horrible, man.
Thanks, Ty. Appreciate you.
Put some sleeves on,
Thanks,
Ty.
fellas. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, guys.
Nice guy, Ty.
Absolutely. All right, coming up next, we're going to close out with Cubs Pirates preview and also get to caller Steve. Stay tuned. Today's episode is also brought to you by Jace Medical. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online eval to licensed pharmacy meds, delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught up unprepared and save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's Jace Medical, JASE medical.com, promo code Locked On. We're back here on Locked On Cubs Soundoff, first edition. Jamison Tyone, as a couple callers have referenced, is being skipped for now. He could pitch again this weekend. And the Cubs are going Assad, Steele, and Hendricks at Wrigley Field. I still think there's a chance maybe we don't even see Tyone until next week, but then you have to get a starter for Friday or Saturday. So
before we bring in Steve,
please.
Just a quick score update. The Reds are going to win. They are up 7-2 in Minnesota, which will then put them ahead of the Cubs because they'll be tied. The Reds have that tiebreaker. And as it stands right now, 1-1 in Miami, Mets, Marlins, bottom 7. Steve,
what you got for us, player?
Oh, Steve's muted, Matt.
Oh, he's muted.
I'm unmuted. There we go.
There it is.
I know this was a show about venting, but I want to flip it. I want to reverse vent. I want to take a gratitude moment, say what a fun season it's been, what a wild season it's been, what a memorable season it's been. We've gotten to this point. I mentioned when I emailed in that my grandmother always used to say we're only a couple grand slams away from turning this thing around. So just keep that in mind. A couple grand slams, we're in it. The thing that I would ask you both to get your perspective on is could you imagine the rest of the season as sort of a mini playoffs for the Cubs? And would they have to, they're not going to hold back the powder, right? They're going to go all in to try to win these last 12 games.
Well,
I hope so.
I think this goes back to Brady's point. It's been a mini playoff for the Cubs since July.
It has.
So it's going to be more of the same. I think that's the problem. I think they haven't been holding back anything, and I think they're a little bit tired.
They've been going hard every game.
Yeah, I like that saying. A couple grand slams away from turning this thing around. I'd like to see Dansby Swanson hit a grand slam. So
he's due. And yeah, just wanted to thank you all both.
Where are you from, Steve?
Out of town. I'm in Crestwood, Kentucky, just north of Louisville.
Crestwood, Kentucky, just north of Louisville. We drive through Louisville sometimes when my family drives through to go to Nashville. Fun fact, it's exciting. Anyway,
I guess I thought it was a fun season too up until the last 10 games.
Fun's not the right word.
It has been fun.
No. For me, it
was a roller coaster. Get on the amusement park.
Yeah.
Make sure you're tall enough. Buy the tickets. All that stuff.
It's fun in a roller coaster way where it's like half the time I want to puke, but then I come off and it's like, okay, that was kind of fun. It's like a rush.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this.
Not the band.
I'll tell you this. When the season's over, it's going to feel really, really dark for me. I won't speak for you, Matt, but like when I come home at night and I have nothing to do, because let me tell you this. I was telling this to somebody today, a friend. I am not going to really be that invested in the playoffs at all if the Cubs aren't in it. Like
I don't remember you watching last year either, honestly.
No, but I watch a little bit more. Like this year, my heart is so invested in the season that like when it's done, I'm good, man. I'm good. And because football's so bad, I might just start like a TV series, telethon. Maybe I'll start doing shows and we can just live watch TV together.
But TV is on strike. It's have to be streaming show or like old shows.
Yeah, no, it'd be like old shows that I haven't seen yet.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Because I don't think I'm gonna like really watch much basketball this season either.
Oh man. Steve, you got with your positivity flowing, do you have a record prediction over the final 12?
3-9.
9-3.
9-3, Steve.
We'll take it. All right. Thanks, Steve, so much for closing us down.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, Sam. That was very fun. Always good to be here and talking with the fans as we just became the first Cubs call-in show on a podcast. Really enjoyed that with the listeners, and I know you did as well.
Yeah, no, great. That was fun. Great job by you as usual, putting this together on a whim, and hopefully next time we could do it, it's more of a celebration line where people could talk about the favorite moments of this 10-game winning streak coming.
100%. 100%.
Let me say this.
How about you go 12-0? How about that?
Let me wrap the show with this. This is serious.
Okay.
Was it June 6th when I threw in the white towel?
Yes, it was.
June 6th.
Angels.
I'm not doing that again. I am in this. I am in this for the long haul. No matter the issues that it's going to bring, and I'm not tapping out now. So let's see if we can't win 8 or 9 of the next 12, and see if the Mets here can't rally for our ball club and give us a little break on a Monday night.
Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs and the first edition of Locked On Cubs Soundoff. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and smash the like button for the algorithm. Also catch us on Apple, Spotify, and streaming on Sirius XM. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.